Hi, welcome to the ACL series, Decoding Special Education. We take one topic, 5 slides, and no more than 5 minutes of education. Today, we're going to talk about a component of the IEP that is called transition planning. So transition planning happens when in Colorado, when a student is either in ninth grade, at the end of ninth grade, or 15 years old, and they have an individualized education plan. And we want to look at the student's interest, their skills, their preferences and needs, along with some assessment tools and parent input to start to look at a picture of what would the student like to be doing when they are done with their public education. That can be at the end of high school, the four-year high school. For some students, a small subset that may include the 18 to 21 transition services, which would be working directly on these goals. So the plan in the IEP for every student with an IEP has to include specific goals in 3 main areas. One is employment career, the second is post-high school education, and some, if appropriate, have independent living skills. Although, as we know, most teenagers need that, but only some are required by law to have training on those. We're also in our transition plan want to see activities to explore and get ready for those goals. And then how are we connecting those goals to the annual goals? So these 3 main areas are something that you should know about, that they can include that it's a section of the IEP, and the employment career can include things like volunteering and part-time employment. It can also include full-time and much bigger employment as well. So here's an example of a quick example is after graduation, student Jess will work part-time as a child care aide. Just using this example for here. Post-secondary education, it could be for many of our students going to a four-year university. It could be going to a 2-year or a community college. It could be a vocational training program. It could be a certificate program. It can also be on-the-job training. So using the same example, after graduation, Jess will pursue a certificate program to be a child care aide. Then only some students, typically those with significant support needs, will also have independent living skills. These are the students most likely to engage in the 18 to 21 transition program, and they're going to talk about their ability to live independently, like in this example. This is important. Every annual goal in the IEP, once they're in that ninth grade, end of ninth grade or 15 years old, needs to be linked to a post-secondary goal. So in order to become a child care aide, the student needs to, and this isn't written as a SMART goal, but it would be, to increase their literacy skills so that they could read the instructions on foods that they have to prepare, or on what the order of cleanup might be, that they need to be able to increase their literacy skills. We also want to see that their high school experience helps them reach those post-secondary goals, so that they're interested in, food service, that they're taking the culinary class if that's available at their high school. Certainly business classes would be if somebody wants to start their own business. Psychology would be, and sociology might be appropriate for Jess, who wants to be a child care aide, and computer literacy skills are definitely something almost everybody needs. And then our transition activities can also include things like visiting college campuses. It could also be working with the Department of Vocational Rehab, which is a federal program, with skills on getting ready to work. And then there would also include some of those independent living skills. So every student with an IEP has a transition goals, and they can change. So a ninth grade 15-year-old doesn't usually know exactly what they want to be, but they have some idea they want to pursue. If we're doing some activities in high school and there's some work with the family at home, then we can explore that topic in that area. And if it turns out not to be their jam, then we can change that goal and move, and then look at coursework and activities that more align with that. And so, oops, I didn't finish this sentence, so never mind. Never mind. Shoot, that was a good one. Okay, I'm going to stop here.